rated R for retarded.
I want to preface this video by saying I have no issue if you are legitimately excited for the Grand Theft Auto trilogy that's coming out on November 11th. And I have no issue with you if you decide to buy this. I understand that having an accessible version of these classic games is a good thing. I myself am looking forward to the Sonic Collection that's coming out next year. What I do have issue with is with the track record that Rockstar and Take-2 have been doing as of late. So excuse me if I sound a bit fucking bitter as to why I myself will not be buying this collection. Maybe for others, but not for me. This might change, but as with the history of Rockstar and Take-Two's bullshit, I'm going to be elaborating on what exactly they've done as of late, and even the mistakes they've made in the past that have yet to be remedied until now.
I know a place on the edge of the red light district where we can lay low, but my hands are all messed up, so you better drive, brother.
This is the first time that Grand Theft Auto has gone 3D, and into the gateway of the 3D universe that is Grand Theft Auto, we can now finally experience what is perhaps the greatest game of the time. So, I want to begin by saying that I am actually playing this on PS2, and this is live commentated, just because I didn't feel like recording two things at different time periods. So this is going to be more of a on-the-hot take, as I'm playing on original hardware. This doesn't support component, but I don't give a shit. So one thing I want to stress with this GTA collection that's coming out, the graphics may look nice, but I could care two shits in what the graphics look like. Honestly, these graphics are pretty damn good and they hold up relatively well. In fact, I'd probably say that GTA 3 is...
This is the place right here.
Honestly, all of them are great for my own merit, honestly. GTA 3 is the most simplest, allowing for the easiest learning curve once you get into the technical of things. Vice City is, of course, the most nostalgic and has the best music, and San Andreas obviously is the best overall package. But my main issue, as I mentioned in the introduction of this little rant, I just do not know why people are all of a sudden head over heels over Rockstar once again. Especially since this collection has been rumored for quite some time. And while, again, I am happy that this collection is actually going to be made, I suppose that it is nice to putting in some effort, but knowing what Rockstar has done in the past, I just don't quite know if I can reassure that I'll be getting a quality game, especially when it's being made for $60. So let's go back a little bit to when San Andreas got remastered. You know which version I'm talking about. The PS3, the Xbox 360, the Windows Store version, and the mobile version. All these are pretty much the same. Although if memory serves me well, it was the mobile port that was made first, which despite being a pretty good version, at least the idea of being able to play a great game on the go, it was plagued with a lot of bugs that never really got fixed to this day, and some interesting choices as far as graphics go. It definitely is a very questionable version, but unfortunately because of Rockstar's infinite wisdom to just not allow people to buy this version anymore, you can't really experience this version. It's kind of like what Bethesda did with Classic Doom, whereas they removed all the versions that you can play, and only letting you be able to play Unity Doom. Which, I just want to go on the record that I don't have an issue with Unity Doom now, but at launch, it was the most unplayable thing I've ever seen, and I'm absolutely disgusted that took this long to actually get a proper version of the game. It seriously pissed me off that a game with this much respect can't even be made properly by so-called devs. It's fucking stupid. But let's go back to San Andreas. This version, the mobile version as I'm calling it, wasn't really that well received. Yes, it's a great game, but the problem is the people who remastered this game and just very shitty decisions that go with the game, such as not being able to have all the soundtracks from the games. So another thing I want to mention with this version of the mobile port that was released It was ported to Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And even when I still play this on the Xbox 360, I still have... The game can crash if you so much as switch weapons. I am not even kidding. I've actually had cases where I switched weapons and the game literally crashed on me, forcing me to reset my Xbox 360. In what universe is this acceptable? As my right trigger on the PlayStation 2 is kind of shitty, so I won't be able to look around much. Excuse me. Because YouTube can be a bitch of copyright, and I'd rather just have the game speak for itself. I won't be having the music on. I do not mean disrespect to the people who have done the licensing, but that's another thing I want to go back to, is the music. Rockstar Games is known for not renewing licenses despite them being a very, very wealthy company. Maybe not as big as, say, Activision or EA, and yes, no, Activision are publishers, but that's not the fucking point. The point is that Rockstar Games are so lazy they can't even bother to renew licenses for old-ass songs. I'm pretty sure they make enough money with shark card sales that people willingly buy because they make the grind so fucking terrible, i.e. Rockstar, not the consumer. So, you mean to tell me that alongside Take-2 is essentially the main publisher of these games? Which I'm going to get to them later, don't you fucking worry, we're going to get to that. But as far as I'm concerned, Rockstar is definitely not short on cash. And this excuse, especially with GTA 4, when that game's 10th anniversary came out, all they did was just make a shitty PC port and they removed a lot of songs, and especially the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, likely the digital versions, have been updated so you can't even listen to their great songs. Particularly with that Russian radio station. I forget its name right now, but it's definitely a travesty that Rockstar has pretty much ignored their other games and only really giving a shit because of the bullshit that Take-Two has been doing. So you've been living under a rock. Take-Two has been going after a lot of modding communities, particularly one with, say, the open source mod that basically lets you play GTA 3, although still needing the original files. So how the fuck is this allowed? I'm not a lawyer. I can't ask Reddick Law on this. He's also a pretty good channel, and I do follow him on Twitter. I should really watch his videos more often. They're actually pretty interesting. It's kind of like my folks with Howard Stern, if that makes sense. Or that radio station, or whatever that they listen to, I forget. But honestly, it's insulting that Take-Two can get away with this. To put it in an ironic sense, they're essentially the mafia version of the publisher game out there. People want to say that Activision is shitty because of the scandal that Activision Blizzard got caught in. Well, honestly, I think besides the women, how they treat women and what they do to them, at least Activision doesn't fucking go after people who mod Call of Duty. Yeah, they don't have anti-cheat, but I don't think they actually go after people and sending actual hitmen to other people's houses because they so much as modified the core files within Red Dead Redemption 2, and even having someone making an unofficial Red Dead Redemption 1 on PC, because that game is how old and yet there's no PC port of that game. Look, I know there's people out there, and one of my good friends doesn't really care for that game, but I very much like Red Redemption. Would I like a PC version? Yes. But the fact that there's been pretty much no real effort to actually port this game to PC despite being older, possibly older than GTA 4, is pretty sickening. Actually, not older. It came out, I think, a year or two later. I'm not too sure. I really apologize for this rant. I just cannot fathom just how annoyed I am that people are once again sucking Rockstar's dick because they're selling us nostalgia. And I've been there before. It's called with Doom. Honestly, with Take-Two, with the way that they've been handling things, I'm surprised that they're even allowed to do what they do. Despite Activision treating their women like shit, at least they don't go after the fanbase that helps keep their games alive. Inside work harassment can be really shitty, but at least Activision doesn't go after people who actually help make their games the way that they are. Even if they have some of the shittiest fucking business practice in history. But honestly, I think Take-Two is probably the worst right now, because they're actually going after people in such explicit ways. I'm not even sure if it's legal, honestly, harassing the modders' friends and families just because someone made a fucking mod for, say, Red Dead Redemption 2 that essentially adds in hot coffee, which I know is a bit of a hot topic if you know the history behind it, but it's seriously disgusting that Take-Two is going after publishers of a game that makes a lot of money. And honestly, I don't blame people. Grand Theft Auto is a great game series. I like both the 2D and 3D games. Yeah, I actually played GTA 2. You know, I didn't play the PC version, but I played the PlayStation 1 version. You know what? It's pretty okay. It's probably the only mainline GTA game that you can play that actually is rated T for teen, at least in the PlayStation version. So even before they started asking you to get licensing to get M-rated games, you could technically play Grand Theft Auto 2 back in the day on PlayStation, still being the very same gory game that it was back then. Just the ESRB is fucking stupid, and they gave it a T rating for no real reason. So I don't know what's up with that, but whatever it is, it's kind of a weird story, but whatever. But with Take-Two being the way that they are, I just can't quite say for certain how they're going to actually handle this. Even watching the professionals' video on how the modding is not included in their description on their website, which I did take a look at, by the way. I showed one of my IRL friends just the graphics that they've made for the game, and I know a lot of people like Gypsy, who I also follow on Twitter, have been memeing out of Tommy Rossetti, which is whatever. Honestly, a lot of games have a really shitty HD texture work, which I'm not saying it's to look exactly like the older ones. I don't mind when games get a different uplift, but if you want a good example of how not to make a remaster for a game, just look at the recently released Saints Row the Third remaster. Now, I'm sure the game is so good despite people bitching that it's not a Saints Row 2 remaster, which I'm not going to get into that bullshit. But the fact that you take the original art design, whether it was intentional or not, and just make it look completely different, I wouldn't say it's bad to say The Last of Us Part 2, and it's still perfectly playable despite not having all the DLC, i.e. the unlockable DLC. But even so, it's just pretty shitty that you just can't really have a decent looking game, just maybe upscaling the graphics a little bit and just making it not look like shit. No, it has such it has such a facelift that you can't even recognize your old bully anymore. I have not seen Gypsy's video on this, but I can certainly tell for a fact that whatever Rockstar is doing, it's only going to be worse when more gameplay of it comes out, and just how much of a bog this fucking game's gonna be. And it sucks, because I love the 3D Grand Theft Auto games. They're some of my favorite games in the 6th generation. Even if it's not a game that I play all the time, because, you know, you can only do so much of a game that you primarily played on console. Not to say they're bad by any means. I know that the mods on PC do a lot of stuff, but I played so much of this, I can't even get any intended experience besides maybe going into the modding scene. And quite honestly, I don't care much for mods unless they're actually quality of life fixes that actually make the game good. Now, I'm not talking about stuff like Brutal Doom for Classic Doom, because I honestly think that it's such a disgrace to what Doom has done, and it's probably the main inspiration for modern Doom. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm talking about like things that actually make sense. This might be a little bit of a nitpick, but I'm talking about things like being able to turn the headlights on or off, having an actual decent first-person view that isn't completely cancer AIDS, unlike GTA 5, when it took almost 2 years just to get a proper first-person version. But I'm talking about stuff that just makes the game, natural selections to make the game feel more interesting. Hell, I even enjoy just even being able to have a thing where you can have... Fuck. You're busted. Fuck. Honestly, I'm not saying that all mods are bad, but I just don't care to overlift the game to the point where it looks like GTA 5 and next gen. First of all, even though I do have a decent PC to run this stuff, I can't even really run GTA 5, but I'm not going to hold it against it. I just don't think it's really, dare I say, optimized. Maybe I don't have the specs for it, but if GTA 5 is the only game that I have in my Steam library that actually gives me fucking issues, then maybe it's just the game, honestly. Because I can even run Doom Eternal just fine, maybe on low settings. It doesn't crash or is unstable compared to GTA 5, so I don't know. Maybe just something I'm not getting. If anyone knows why this particular thing happens, then please, by all means, let me know. Now, let me go back to my rant about mods. I know that the 3D era of GTA games are very notorious for having a lot of good stuff in them. Like, even the earliest mod I can think of is a snow mod for GTA 3 that essentially adds ice physics and a winter setting, kind of like Bully on PlayStation 2, which is also another great game despite Scholarship Edition being kind of buggy in some places. But I don't know. It's just really hard to put in words that isn't scripted because as I'm playing this, because I'm just very passionate about these games. They do have issues, yes. Particularly with some of the missions, they're very annoying, but you know, they're not that impossible to the point where you just want to give up. They're very hard, but they are doable. They're not this insane bullshit where you essentially soft lock your game if you fail or something. They're not that fucking hard. The thing that annoys me, another thing that annoys me, is that even with the other releases of Vice City in particular, I don't think GTA 3 was too much change as far as the re-releases go, because a lot of the songs weren't really licensed per se. There might be a couple radio stations that were actually had licensed music, but as far as I can tell, Head Radio and I think Lips 106 might be based on songs that were from the older GTA games, the ones that nobody played, but you wouldn't think that because they sound so professional that you wouldn't think that they're actually songs made just for the older games, because Rockstar, or whatever they were called back then, they didn't have the license or money to add in a licensed soundtrack. And honestly, I think they should go back to that, because, you know, this is actually a thing called effort in making the games feel more interesting, but they don't want to do that. As far as what Vice City has also brought to the table, there is this very infamous controversy with the Haitians in this game. There was a pretty big scandal involving Haitians, because apparently when this game was new, Vice City, I mean, it caused a lot of controversy with the Haitians, and I don't quite know when this sparked, but I do know for a fact that at some point the game had to be re-released, and there's I think 2 or 3 different versions of the game, and I am fortunate enough to actually have only played the original version, which is censored. I'm sorry, which is not censored. But it does have a few problems, in particular the PS2 version, where saving at the what is it? The Cherry Poppers. Why did I say Cherry Poppins? Yeah, I'm fucking hybrid of Mary Poppins and Cherry Poppers. Very funny, Rockstar. There was a very nasty save bug with the Cherry Popper save factory, where if you went to save there, your game would essentially brick or some shit, and you were pretty much fucked. Although this could be alleviated by just simply not saving there. I don't know if this was fixed in the PC version, but I imagine it probably being so. And there was also some other changes that were made on PC, particularly with the tear gas not being at the police station, rather a explosive grenade, which I guess could work, so technically they're a lot better than tear gas. It's a bit of a novelty weapon, but grenades are still pretty useful, I guess, but, you know, it's always something, I guess. But another issue with Vice City, as I pause, sorry about that. Another issue with Vice City is that the game's licensing just caused later versions, particularly with the mobile version, to just remove a lot of songs. And I noticed, whatever you feel about Michael Jackson, how many times have you started playing Vice City as a kid, or a teenager, or an adult, or even now?
Hey, watch the car! I said
how many times have you were happy that you got to listen to a great song every time you got into a car? It would always play Billie Jean, which is a great song, and it sets the stage for what Vice City brought as far as the 80s aesthetics go. And now, I guarantee you this song will not be in the game, and yet people are buying a $60 version just to have a modern version of these games, and it's honestly disgusting. I also don't quite understand why these the listing of other versions has to be done. I think I touched up on this, but I'm going to try to do it again. Again, there might be a lot of editing, because I want to try to make all my points coherent. But the fact that they're delisting other versions just makes no sense to me. What if someone doesn't have an Xbox Series X or PS5? I know the game's coming out on PS4 and Xbox One as well, but I just don't see the point in just removing other versions when they're perfectly playable. It's like I said with Classic Doom. It's fucking stupid. And to me, with Doom, again, I apologize for going on to this, but whatever issues the BFG edition has, I still feel that Doom Classic Complete was the best complete version of the game that we got. This was before Sigil was a thing, and even though Master Levels is whatever, it was still a complete package that lets console players play the entirety of the entirety of Final Doom, which consists of TNT Evolution and the Plutonium Experiment in one complete package. Which it wasn't until prior to that, the only way console players got to play that was through the PlayStation version, which was terrible because there were so many levels that got cut. And honestly, Final Doom on PlayStation is such a mess, and I'm not even gonna really get into it. But I don't know. It's honestly disgusting. But all this hype for what this collection is doing, and I'm not even certain if it's really worth buying into. Like, I have no doubt that the game will sell very well because of nostalgia, and I might be guilty of this because I have bought Unity Doom, at least on Xbox, even though I've also bought it on PC and Switch. And the only reason I bought it on those platforms, and actually I think I bought it at least 4 times, is the first time it was because it was a console exclusive. Unity Doom was not released on PC initially, which I do not understand. And despite whatever I feel about it, as I said, it runs fine. But again, my issue is that it should have been that way to begin with. Classic Doom deserves so much love and respect that having a piss-poor version of a game that should not be having this many issues in the current generation is honestly pretty fucking stupid. But what can you do? Oh shit, my car's on fire. How much you want to bet that these versions of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas will be buggy at launch? I would also be surprised if they were delayed, considering that there is a set release date, which I also want to touch up on. I don't understand why there is a 2 different release dates for this. What is the point? I'll probably end up getting it for someone because I know they're into these, but me personally, I just don't see the point. Maybe I might change my mind if there's actually something that might be worth playing, but even just for the PC version, I just don't see the point. Rockstar Games launcher is fucking terrible. I don't see the point in it at all. It is only there just to prove my point about DRM in general. I know it's not that intrusive, but having to have a launcher open just to play a game is dumb. Like, if I bought a game on PC, it should be playable. I know disk checks were annoying back in the day, but you didn't need to have a fucking launcher open just to play a game. And before someone says, well, Doom 95 had a launcher to open, well, at least you don't have to fucking worry about an internet connection. That's another problem with these launchers, is that you have to have an internet connection just to fucking do anything on them, and it's terrible. Like, you bought the game, but yet you can't even really do it unless you fucking have, you know, a connection. I understand that piracy is a big deal, especially for newer games, but Jesus Christ, I bought the game, so why the fuck can I not play it at my leisure? For the Rockstar Games launcher, I just don't know if it's going to be worth buying on PC just for that. And also with San Andreas, speaking of content, I do want to bring up another thing that people are not really talking about as far as I know. What about the 2-player mode? I know it was kind of half-baked in the original game, but to my knowledge, it was the best part of the game, because you got to play a sandbox game with another person, and at the time, it was freaking glorious. What other sandbox game can you actually point to me and say that this was a game you got to play with a buddy in the same room that did not require LAN or having to play online or anything of the sort? The only other game I can personally think of is just Soil Human 2, and that isn't even really a sandbox game compared to that of Grand Theft Auto. But with the quality of these Grand Theft Auto games, you're able to play it with a buddy. The 2-player mode of San Andreas not really being brought back is honestly disheartening. And yes, I know the PC version doesn't have this either, but to be fair, there is a very simple mod that does not require Clio, which is essentially a program that lets you install a lot of complicated mods for the game.
You're under arrest!
As I almost get busted, at least it wasn't Ultra Cop, but what the fuck. These games, when they keep getting released, they keep losing content. What about these remasters of older games that keep coming out and yet they can't even hold the guarantee of having the actual content from the game? Look at the Crysis remasters, for instance. I think they're fucking terrible. And yes, I'm keeping this in because it's actually a point that I want to make. It might be good enough to make a separate video on this, but I do want to mention how this Crysis remaster... Well, first of all, there's the Crysis Remaster Trilogy, but honestly, I'm not even going to bother buying them. I only bought the Switch version because, you know, it might make for a decent game to play on the go, but as far as I can tell, there really is no point in playing them on the current gen. At least on Switch, you can play them, wherever you want. But as far as I'm concerned, these remasters are terrible. With Crisis Remastered, it's based on the console version, which is a fucking joke. You know, the original Xbox 360 version that nobody liked, not even having multiplayer or the expansion pack that was somewhat well received. I'm not quite sure. I didn't play Crisis back in the day. I've only really played Crisis 2 and 3, which I think are pretty decent modern-day FPS games, even if they have a lot of the annoying shit. But at least they try to do something different with them besides just being the usual COD clone. I don't know about you, but I get a lot more power fantasies when it comes to these games compared to something like what what does with it. But with Crisis 2 and 3 Remastered, despite being pretty good games, they're missing the multiplayer mode. And I was in the camp for the longest time that I would not care if something like Call of Duty were to bring back Modern Warfare 2 with only the multiplayer, but then I'm like, why take out the campaign? I know the campaign was whatever, but it was still pretty alright. But unfortunately, it's just, you know, people just do not seem to care what the game is as long as it's just the older game. Except there have been cases where you literally get pretty much a one-to-one remaster of an older game that's built from the ground up, i.e. a remake, but still keeping true to the original spirit. But in that case, games like Medieval get completely shafted, and I have no idea why. It is essentially in the same vein as the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy alongside the Spyro trilogy. But why does Medieval get shit? Because it's a different game? It's essentially what Medieval did, but for a modern day audience. Now yes, the game is not perfect, it does have faults. In fact, I've had a pretty big issue with it for not including the Helmet DLC, but that has been nullified, and you know, I might have to re-edit my post about that. But as far as I can tell, people, even when they get remasters of old games, even if it's made in the best way possible, people will still find something to complain about. Well, someone's like, oh, well, you're complaining about a game you haven't played. The problem is, I have played these games, and I've seen plenty of remasters. Even if they're made as good as possible, they're still missing content, and if they're actually made competently, like with Medieval, which, funny enough, actually does add in not only a new collectible, but a way to play the original game, and yet that's still not good enough for people like Jim Sterling. And no, I don't care what they go by now, I don't care. I watched them back when they called Jim Sterling, so I'm calling them Jim Sterling. So I don't care. It's just obnoxious that with these remasters of old games, they keep removing content from the original game. Another game I want to discuss is the Uncharted collection that's on PS4. I have no idea why this is even a thing. Yes, it does have a new difficulty mode for the other games, but facts are facts, people. Uncharted 2 and 3 are no longer playable online, and they are lost forever in a time that we're never going to get them back. Unless someone finds a way to recreate the servers like with the Demon Souls on PS3. I know someone on Reddit, I think, made a private server or some shit that lets you play the game online, which is great. But I've not seen anything like that for Uncharted. If there is something like that, I might have to look into that, honestly. But as far as I can tell, there is no official way to play the multiplayer mode for Uncharted. Some might argue that it was a throwaway mode, but honestly, even if it was a throwaway mode, just having a version of the game where it's not included is fucking stupid. And yes, I'm gonna say it. As much as I completely detest Modern Doom, especially with Doom 2016's decent but still kind of shitty multiplayer mode, I'd be pretty pissed off too if there was a version of the game that did not include all its content. And guess what? The Nintendo Switch version is exactly that. It only has the campaign and the multiplayer mode, and you would still charge $60 for no reason, despite actually cutting content that was actually decent enough. Even if it was just Dollar General map maker from Time Splitters, which is a much better trilogy of shooters than what Modern Doom will likely have whenever the next game will come out. And I promise you there will be another one, because it's way too successful for Bethesda and Modern id Software right now, or whatever they want to be called. I apologize if this is kind of half-baked, but I really don't have anything to say that I'm pretty sure other people have been talking about. It's just disappointing that we're finally getting a way to play GTA, but it can't even just be like, you know, maybe taking this version, even using some of the code that the modders made, but no. Take-Two has to take down a mod of a game that requires the original game to run, which I honestly do not understand. How is that illegal? I mean, not even Nintendo took down that Super Mario 64 mod on PC that requires the fucking ROM to run. Now, yes, you can today get ROMs for games very easily now, unlike back in the day where you use a fucking weird-ass cartridge dumper. And let's be honest, however you feel about piracy, if it wasn't for these people dumping these ROMs, there was no way you'd fucking be able to play some of the rarest games known to man. Particularly with the championship cards that you can still find on archive.org or some shit, or even any of the other games that are obscure as shit, or even some of the most expensive rental-only games back in the day, such as Clay Fighters, the updated version on Nintendo 64. And I know for a fact the game is very expensive. And you want to go on your high horse saying that these games should not be emulated because you're not playing them on the correct version, get yourself a flash card and shut the fuck up. It's honestly disgusting that people are sold on the idea of playing classic games that you can technically already play the best versions of, even on PC. Now, there might be some discrepancies as far as what versions is definitive or not. As you can see, I'm playing my old-ass copy that's on PS2, and I seem to be doing okay, besides some of the fuck-ups I had. But honestly, you can get that authentic experience on PC. Yeah, there might be a bit of an issue getting the controls to work because, you know, the input and stuff. But as far as I can tell, whatever the PC version of these old games, and the only reason I'm really bringing the PC version in particular is because I know for a fact that at least GTA Vice City could run on toaster laptops, or at least modern-day toaster laptops. But, you know, even before I had my decent beast mode machine, I know for a fact I could run these games okay. And that was on Windows 7, so I have no doubt that someone could probably find old-ass copies of these games and just play them in a way that makes sense. But unfortunately, people will not be able to buy these games to support Rockstar games anymore. But honestly, I don't think people should support them, because they're screwing over people in GTA Online, but you people keep buying into the idea that GTA Online is dead. But then when you finally get a newer version of the game, it's just a complete disgrace to games that you yourselves grew up with back in the day. It's fucking sick. I don't know why people keep buying into this crap that Rockstar does no wrong. And I'm sure there's some people who say, oh, well, they have been saying Rockstar does no wrong. Then why are they indifferent with this game? Why is this remaster an exception? Because it's what you grew up with? If you really cared about these games, you'd fucking play it in the version that makes you happy. Yes, they are old, but if you already have a PC and are playing these games, then you technically already have a way to play these games without needing a fucking console to do so. I understand for those on Switch or maybe the PS5 and Xbox Series X, only in those two cases, because those don't really have any actual games worth playing. But as far as I'm concerned, there's just no real reason to really buy a botched version of a game that's already expensive as it is. Seriously, $60 for 3 games? Yeah, it might be somewhat of a better job compared to what Mario 3D All-Stars had to offer. And while it's not a timed limited release, unlike that game, I still find it to be an extremely obnoxious price. $60 for what? I'm pretty sure I paid $50 for each of the 3 GTA games that I've been playing back in the day, and will still play those versions. And what's funny is I actually have access to the Xbox versions, which is the other console ports that not a lot of people really talk about. It's either the PS2 version or the PC version. But I do plan on doing videos showing off the Xbox version, because I think it's interesting to see what additions they made. And not to mention that the Xbox version actually does have custom soundtrack support, which basically lets you listen to your songs you put on your Xbox system and get to ride around the likes of Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas using a soundtrack that you yourself have made. I don't think you can do it on 360, which sucks. Not that it really matters, because the music in these games are all great. And before anyone asks, yes, the copy of Vice City I recently bought as of this recording is the uncensored version. It took me some time to look into what details are in the uncensored version, and I will be getting a second copy just so that I have 2 of them, because I'm not really a hoarder. I want to make sure someone I know actually has a copy, because they already have San Andreas and GTA 3, I believe, with duplicates. So why not complete the collection of a trilogy of great games that, honestly, much like a classic Doom, deserves a lot more. And while I know for a fact that this game was not ported as much as, say, Skyrim or Doom or even Resident Evil 4, the fact that these versions exist and will likely not hold up compared to the older games is going to be pretty disgusting. Maybe my words might be changed when I do see actual gameplay of this, but I am not holding my breath considering what Take-Two has been doing as of late, taking down mods that actually improve the game and not even really doing so in an illegal manner. Seriously, how is an open source mod illegal when you have to have the original version of the game in the first place? It's not like you can just take some INI file and play the game right away. It doesn't work like that, Take-Two, you fucking idiots. And Rockstar is no better either. Seriously, when they made that tweet about what great fans they had, people got in their cases about it, but then when they showed their gameplay, people pretty much changed their minds. Even MVG of all people, considering that they were the ones who essentially sparked this whole debate in the first place. Oh, the graphics look nice. And I'm not calling them out in this particular instance, like calling them an asshole or anything, but it just proves my point that even when someone sees some form of gameplay, their minds are immediately changed. Which is kind of lame. I don't understand when people are so blind to the idea of having prettier graphics in a game that doesn't really need much besides maybe a touch-up, maybe fixing some things or taking some mods or some shit before someone asks, well, isn't using other people's mods illegal or some shit? Well, I'm pretty sure there's PC games that have taken mods from other works and putting it into an official version, particularly games like Unreal Tournament. I know it's an older example, but it has been done before. Or even look at the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Anniversary Edition. That's just essentially taking the mods that were for the other Skyrim on Xbox One and just putting it on a newer version, which is ridiculous. I don't know. I'm not exactly a lawyer on this, so I can't really confirm. But I do know that this version is not going to be really that good. And again, unless I am proven wrong, I will not be buying this at all. I absolutely refuse. I do not care. I will find a way to play the version on PC, but unless I'm actually convinced that this version will be okay, then I am not buying it. I'm sorry, I will not. I do not care for the GTA 5 inspired controls. I think that's fucking stupid. I understand these games don't have the greatest of controls, but San Andreas essentially refined it. You could have just taken the GTA 3 skeleton and just put the San Andreas controls on it.
You know, I enjoyed myself.
Again, they might not be the greatest, but they certainly worked and was the most elaborate. Or even take the fighting engine of Vice City Swords, which is the best melee combat, and just combine the best of both worlds from San Andreas and Vice City Swords. But no, they don't want to do that, because that would take actual effort, which I don't think what Rockstar is doing. They're just essentially taking the older games, reselling them for full price. I know it's a collection of 3 games, honestly, paying $60 even for a collection of these games is pretty freaking stupid, honestly. You should not be paying full price for this, honestly. Maybe wait for a sale, but I just don't think it's really worth the full asking price right now. Especially since I could be playing these games on PC or even on PS2 as I speak right now and get the same experience I had back in the day, as there is no taxi cab, so I'm kind of fucked. I might have to reset this mission. Even before someone says, oh, well, how come you were so, hyped over the Medieval remake, and how come you're so hyped over the Advance Wars reboot? Well, for one, Medieval is a game that definitely does deserve the remaster treatment, and not just some game that came out like 2 years ago, or whatever. There has not really been that many Medieval games as far as I can tell. And the few that do exist, there's only like 3 games as far as I can tell. The first 2 games on PlayStation that remake that not a lot of people really liked, but it was still a nice game in the PSP regardless. And of course, this PS4 game, which definitely is deserving of it. But honestly, even as much as I'm excited for the Advance Wars reboot, reboot camp. Despite me being excited for what the Advance Wars game has brought, and I did pre-order my copy through GameStop because I actually like to have a retail copy of a game I actually cared about. Even I am skeptical of what the game will have to bring. And it's not just some game that's like, you know, that doesn't really get a lot of love and attention. And while I know that Grand Theft Auto is a lot more popular game, something like Advance Wars getting remade versus Grand Theft Auto is a pretty big deal if you ask me. But even with who's making the game is what I'm really worried about. And I'm not saying that Way Forward has a shitty track record, it's just I know that they love Shantae a lot, and I'd rather just have an actual Advance Wars game and not just having shoehorning in Shantae in some dumb way. Like, honestly, I believe Advance Wars can stand on its own 2 legs, but that's whatever. I'm not really sure what else I can add, honestly. It's, honestly, if you really want to buy this, I just highly wait to see what the game has to offer. Like, if you really are that excited and pre-order like a Dope Advance was reboot, despite me being worried that WayForward will fuck it up somehow, that's whatever. You can call me a hypocrite on that and saying I'm downplaying a situation, but I'm just tired of Rockstar being Rockstar, and they always keep fucking shit up, and people always kissing their ass every time they do something right. They might do a lot of good things right, and their past games are still some of the greatest games I'll ever play. Maybe except for, like, Classic Doom or whatever, but I really am sick of their bullshit. I'm done. Time to go kill myself.